So, as we have been reading, Lord Kapila is describing about the perception of a perfected soul, of a person who has achieved the perfection in yoga. So here he is describing Swayonishu yatha jyotir ekam nana pratiyate. Swayonishu means in the form of wood. So in the form of wood, just like Jyoti, the fire, ekam, it is one only, same quality. Nana pratiyate, but depending on the wood, this fire appears differently. If there is bigger wood, fire will appear to be big. If there is a small stick, fire appears to be smaller. Similarly, yoninam guna vaishamya tatha atma prakartau sthitaha. Similarly, even though the spirit soul is of the same quality, it manifests itself differently based on the three modes of material nature. Guna Vaishamya, because of different combination of three modes of material nature, different kinds of bodies are formed, and in that the soul will manifest accordingly. So if three modes of material nature combine in such a way that it will form a body of an elephant, then the soul manifests the body of an elephant. And the same soul, according to the karma, if it has to take the body of an ant, now you can see there is a lot of difference between the body of an elephant and the body of a small ant. Elephants, all limbs are very huge, very big. Small ants, all limbs are there, but they are all very minute, very small. So when the same spirit soul has to enter into the body of an elephant, then Prakriti combines in such a way that the body which will be manifest from that soul will be of an elephant. If it has to take the body of an ant, then the soul will be sent into that species of life. And there the combination of these three modes will be in such a way that body of ant will become manifest. But it is the same spirit soul. The same soul can take the body of an elephant also, and it can take the body of an ant also. When it takes the body of an elephant, it acts in a different way. When it takes the body of a small ant, it acts in a different way. So this is the example given. Swayonishu yatha jyotir ekam nana pratiyate. Just like the jyoti, the flame in the wood appears differently according to the size of the wood. If the size of the wood is bigger, then the flame appears bigger. If the size of the wood is small, it appears smaller. It's like sometimes in the yajna, When the devotees put lot of firewood, then you can see huge it will be. And when they put little firewood, then it will be very low. So based on the wood, the shape will differ. Quantity of fire will differ. Quality of fire remains the same. Similarly, the living entity, tathatma prakartau sthitaha. Similarly, Atma, the living entity, yoninam guna vaishamya, based on which yoni he enters into, according to three modes. Guna vaishamyat means because of the combination and permutation of three modes of material nature. Varieties of body are there, and the same soul manifest differently. So this is how varieties are explained in this material world. Scientists have a different view of these varieties. They are thinking first, in the beginning of creation, lower varieties existed, complex varieties did not exist. They think life was very simple in the beginning. It was only single cell. Slowly some evolution happened, some changes happened in the atmosphere, and life started becoming complex. Earlier there was only single cell. It became differentiated into many organs. There was only simple system involved in single cell, whereas there is complex system involved in today's life. So they think it has evolved over a period of time. And they call it as natural selection. That nature selects something which will exist and something which is not adaptable, survival of the fittest, which is not, it will not survive, that slowly it will fade away. So this is their understanding. But today we find both are existing. This they cannot answer. Single cell, still it is existing, and complex is also existing. If single thing has evolved into complex, single should cease to exist. Survival of the fittest, why that is also still surviving, and complex is also surviving? They cannot answer. So Bhagavatam is giving the answer. It is the same spirit soul which is taking on different bodies based on the combination of three modes of material nature. This permutation and combination of three modes creates 84 lakh different varieties. 84 different lakh varieties. Now, question is this. One may think, and this is how the Mayavadi thinks, they think it is not the spirit soul. It is not the spirit soul which is manifesting itself. It is that same super soul, same Brahman, who manifests differently into different living entities. It is that super soul, they think like this. So for them, they are thinking all these 84 lakh species of life are different forms of God. But in these forms, Brahman is covered by Maya. They also say it is created by Guna Vaishamya. These are created by Guna. But God is enjoying this pastime like this. He wants to enjoy pastime like this, being covered by Maya. So somebody asked like this, when somebody was telling to Prabhupada like this, that this is the philosophy. So Prabhupada said, then okay, very good. I will kick you on your face and you enjoy now. Because you want to enjoy going into the life of a pig and eating stool, isn't it? You are saying it is your Leela. So this is what these people are thinking. God has to make a Leela where he has to eat stool, and they are calling it as Leela of God. So this is their misunderstanding. Dhruva Maharaj, in his prayers, he makes a very clear distinction. Prabhupada is also saying here, if you see in the purport, Prabhupada is pointing this out. This is interesting. It is to be understood that the body is designated. This body is not the real. These are all designations. Sometimes big body, sometimes small body, all designations. We are not this body. We take on this body. Designation is taken. It is not me. So, Prakriti is an interaction by the three modes of material nature. And what is this Prakriti manifestation? We are seeing now. Tree, body of a tree. We are seeing all this. Wall. This is Prakriti. Prakriti is manifested. What is it? It is the combination, interaction of three modes of material nature. And according to these modes, someone has a small body, someone has a very large body. For example, fire is big. In big piece of wood, it appears big. And in a stick of wood, it appears small. Big piece of wood is there, it is appearing big. So the same fire takes on different form based on the wood. Same spirit soul takes on the different forms based on three modes of material nature. Like that. Actually, the quality of fire is the same everywhere. Manifestation of material nature is such, according to the fuel, fire appears bigger and smaller. But next, Prabhupada is making another important point. Because someone may say, similarly, this universal body is also big. Elephant body is big. So universal body is big. In that also same soul is there. Somebody may say. Because this is the example given here. Based on fuel, different bodies are taken. Sometime it is big, sometime it is small. So Mayavadis will argue, universal body, Vishwarupa, in that you are saying there is a soul. So they are saying that is also same. Because Guna Vaishamyat, based on Guna, somebody may take a smaller body, somebody may take a bigger body. Isn't it? They may say. So Prabhupada is pointing out, no, that is different. So Prabhupada is saying, similarly, the soul in the universal body, although of the same quality, yes, it is also of the same quality as the spirit soul, is different from the soul in the smaller body. In the universal body, it is the Supreme Lord who enters as Paramatma, and that is called as Super Soul. That is different. And then Prabhupada is giving the example how it is different. Small particle of soul are just like spark of a larger soul. So that universal soul is the one whose part and parcel are these varieties of soul who are taking these different varieties of 84 lakh species of bodies. They are part and parcel of that super soul. The greatest soul is the super soul, but the super soul is quantitatively different from the smaller soul. So the small soul is quantitatively different. So Prabhupada is saying, what is the difference? Somebody may say, what is the difference? Yes, the difference is super soul is described in the Vedic literature as supplier of all necessities of smaller soul. Who knows that verse? Nityo nityanam chetanas chetananam ekova vidadhati kaman. Right? So, he is one, ekova, and we are bahunam, we are many. And that one is different because he is supplier of all our necessities. He is the one who fulfills the desires of all this bahunam. He is also nitya, he is also conscious. We are also nitya. Difference is he supplies, we are maintained, he is maintainer. That difference is there. So Dhruva Maharaj in his prayers explains this very beautifully. The last prayer we had read, once again I will just read that. Same thing he is saying. Ekastvameva bhagavan nidamatma shaktya मायाख्ययोरुगुणया महदादशेषं सृष्ट्वानुविश्य पुरुषत् तदसद्गुणेषु नानेव दारुषा विभावसु वद्विभासि. So Prabhupada translates, My Lord, you are the Supreme One, Ekastvameka. But by your different energies, you appear differently in spiritual and material worlds. So, living entity is also one of the energies of the Lord. Through his energies, like living entity, the same Lord only manifests. But he still keeps his individuality. Not that he has become transformed. His energies are transformed. This has to be understood. You create the total energy of the material world by your external potency. So by Maya Shakti, Maya Kyoru, the Shakti named Maya, the Supreme Lord creates the total Mahadad Ashesham. He creates that Mahatattva, total material energy. And after creation, you enter within the material world as the Super Soul. So the Supreme Lord enters into this material creation. You are the Supreme Person. And then, through the temporary modes of material nature, same thing. Just like here it is said, Guna Vaishamyat. By the combination, interaction of three modes of material nature, varieties of bodies are produced. So here also, same thing, Dhruva Maharaj is also saying. You are the Supreme Person, and through the temporary modes of material nature, you create varieties of manifestation. And he is giving the same example. Just as fire entering into the wood of different shapes burn differently in different varieties. So the Supreme Lord, he is the one who creates these varieties. And the part of that Supreme Lord called Vibhinna Amsha enters into these different varieties and differently they become manifested. So in one way, it can also be said the Supreme Lord through his energy, he becomes manifested. The same fire becomes manifested in varieties. And then, in order to differentiate the form of the Lord and the form of other living entities, Dhruva Maharaj in his next prayer says, because somebody may think it is the same Supreme Lord, he is only becoming manifested, maybe through his different energy, but same only, no? Somebody may say. So he is making a distinction. So he says, Tiryannaga dvija sarisarpa deva detya martyadibi parichitam sadasad vishesham rupam sthavishtam atate mahadadanekam natah param parma vedmina yatra vadaha. So he is saying, my dear Lord, before seeing your transcendental form, I have been seeing varieties of forms. So he is naming some of them. Tiryan, he says, I have seen the forms of animals. Naga, I have seen different kinds of forms of trees. Naga. Dvija, I have seen different forms of birds. Sarisripa, reptiles. Deva, demigods. Detya, demons. Martyadibihi, human beings. He is called Martya, one who is born and is destined to die. So, and Adibihi, like this, 84 lakh species. All these different forms I have seen. And what are these? Parichitam sad asad vishesham. All these forms are sometimes manifest and sometimes they are not manifest. Sad asad means sometimes they become manifested and sometimes they are not manifest. But this, he is saying, whereas the form which I am seeing now, it is completely different. Rupam sthavishtam ajate. My dear Lord, even though you are unborn, aja, but the form which I am seeing, mahadad anekam nataha parma parma, they are not any one of these forms. Nataha, these forms are parama, these forms are transcendental. O Supreme Lord, all these different varieties of forms I have seen. Your form which I am seeing now, it is parama. It is transcendental to all of them. It is not one of them. These forms are sometimes manifest, these are sometimes unmanifest. So, Prabhupada very nicely translates, my dear Lord, O Supreme Unborn, I know the different varieties of living entities such as animals, all these things, are spread throughout universe, which is caused by total material energy. And I know they are sometimes manifest and unmanifest. But I have never experienced the supreme form I behold as I see you now. And now he is saying, now all kinds of arguments have come to rest. They have all come to an end. Before seeing this form, in my mind I had so many different kinds of conclusions and arguments. All that has now come to an end. Sometimes one may be thinking God is having no form, all these are God's form. So many different arguments people will give. And he is saying all those arguments have come to an end. Vada vivada. So he is saying, Nayatra vadaha. And then in the next shloka, he is explaining one of those forms of the Supreme Lord. And in the next prayer, he will explain how this form is different from all other forms. So in the next one, he is saying, Kalpanta etadakilam jhatarena grihnan. That one of your form in the form of Garbhodakshai Vishnu, because now he is saying Paramatma, Shirodakshai Vishnu. So Shirodakshai Vishnu comes from Garbhodakshai Vishnu, expansion of Garbhodakshai Vishnu. And Garbhodakshai Vishnu is the expansion of Mahavishnu. So he is talking about Garbhodakshai Vishnu's form. Kalpanta etad akhilam. At the end of every millennium, etad, this whole creation, akhilam, all this creation which I am seeing, jhatarena grihnan, you withdraw this whole cosmic manifestation inside your body. Jhatarena means within your belly. So we know that form is Garbhodakshai Vishnu. And when full creation, this is at the end of every millennium, at the end of life of Brahma, then everything is withdrawn in the body of Mahavishnu. So he is describing this form as Garbhodakshai. And how is that form? Shete Puman, that supreme form, that supreme Lord in the form of Garbhodakshai Vishnu, he is lying down, Shete, Swadrag, looking upon himself, Ananta Sakhas, in his another expansion as Lord Ananta. He is lying down on that form. Where is he lying down? Tadanke, on the lap of Ananta Shesha. Garbhodakshai Vishnu is lying down. Yannabhi Sindhu, from his navel, which is like an ocean, Ruha, something sprouted. And what is that? Kanchana Loka Padma, a flower which is golden in color, sprouted from his navel. And all the lokas are situated in that stem of that navel. You see? So, and further, Garbhe Dyuman, and on that, on the whorls of that, petals of that lotus, Dyuman, Lord Brahma is born. My dear Lord, I know you to be the same Lord. Bhagavate Pranatosmi Tasmai. You are that supreme Lord. I offer my obeisances unto you. So now somebody may say, what is the difference between your Lord and the living entity? He is also Shete, Tadanke, he is also lying in slumber on the, so your Lord also awakes, isn't it? He is also sleeping, and then he also takes varieties of forms. So then what is the difference? So in the next shloka, Dhruva Maharaj explains difference between these two forms. These 84 lakh varieties of forms and this form of the Supreme Lord, which he is seeing face to face. So he is saying, Tvam nitya mukta parishuddha vibuddha atma kutastha adi purusho bhagavan stradhishaha yad buddhi avasthitam akhanditaya swadrishta drishta stithavadimakho vyatarikta ase. So he is saying, my dear Lord, your form which I am seeing now, it is Nitya Mukta, eternally liberated. So we all know the living entities are not eternally liberated. They come under material conditioning, and according to their karma, they become conditioned, baddha. Whereas the form of the Supreme Lord is Nitya Mukta, it is eternally liberated. Parishuddha. Now we saw all other forms were Guna Vaishamyat, all combination and permutation created by three modes of material nature. Form of the Supreme Lord is Parishuddha, pure goodness. It is not combination of three modes of material nature. It is completely purified form. Vibuddha, even though the Supreme Lord may be in his Yoga Nidra, in his slumber, still he is Vibuddha, full of knowledge. Even then he is full of knowledge. Whereas when we go to sleep, we are completely ignorant of the reality, what is happening, who am I. Once again when we awaken, only then we come to understand. But the Supreme Lord is completely in knowledge, Vibuddha. Vibuddha Atma, super soul. Kutastha, there is no change absolutely in his nature. Even though he may come to the material world, he is still Kutastha. He does not undergo change. Or sometime when we say Achyuta, one who never falls from his position. It is just like even if the Prime Minister goes to the jail, he is still Prime Minister. He is not going as a prisoner. That is the idea. So even though the Supreme Lord comes to the material world, it is not that he is taking some form. Just like the form of the Varaha, which we are worshipping, incarnation of the Supreme Lord is different from an ordinary hog. It is different. That form is completely Sat Chit Ananda form. Completely filled with knowledge. Form of a pig, ordinary pig, is filled with ignorance. So there is lot of difference. Adi Purusho, and he is the origin of all other forms. He is the origin of all other forms. Adi Purusho. Bhagavan, his form is filled with 6 opulences. Trayadhishaha, he is the master of 3 modes of material nature. Yat buddhi avasthitam akhanditaya swadrishta, by his unbroken intelligence, akhanditaya, he is able to perceive all stages of our intelligence. All stages. When we are liberated, when we are conditioned in varieties of forms of life, what we are doing, what we are not doing, what we are thinking, everything the Supreme Lord is aware about. Yat buddhi avasthitam akhanditaya swadrishta. His intelligence is never khandita, it is always unbroken. Trishta sthitav adimako vyatarikta ase. Vyatarikta means your form is separately, differently situated from all other forms. You are the witness, drishta, and sthitav, you are the maintainer of this whole cosmic manifestation. Adhimakho, and you are the supreme enjoyer of every activities. So, Vyatarikta Ase means you are situated differently. Your form which I am seeing is not an ordinary form. It is para, it is completely different. So, this is how we can understand. So, we'll stop with this. Granth Raj, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai.